Thank you. Thank you. Yes, so I had to uh, take out Biblical Hebrew because of the time, really, because I would have needed to compare and it would have taken too much time. So let me just check. Okay, so uh, so that I don't go beyond. So the another another way of saying the same thing is the role of the mental lexicon in the contour recognition of word forms in Arabic. And this presentation has a is a new presentation, of course, but then there's a background which I recall here. It starts with David Cohen's first formal representation of the Arabic word forms, and it goes on and on until uh, my last book on um, verbs, that is, the specifies, we will see that information associated to verbs for conjugation, and including a work with Professor Jonathan Granger and myself and other people on the role of roots in the contour recognition of written Arabic words. So the issue is that of the mental lexicon needed for reading Semitic writings, where we know that short vowels are not written, okay, to make things short. So the issue, so what is the mental lexicon? It's not only in Arabic, we also have things like that in Hebrew, but I put them aside not to spend too much time comparing. The word form is agglutinative, which makes it even more difficult to read. In fact, it brings reading in Arabic as contour reading. That is to make it to make things in simple words. You take a photograph of the word, you analyze it instead of going from letter one, letter two, letter three, as our telephones or SMS messages do. When we get to the third or fourth letter, they recognize the word, we can click on it, and it writes it. So, and then the question is, what is the mental lexicon? So there are, in fact, to answer the question of what the mental lexicon really is, we have two ways for hypothesis on the cognitive structure of the mental lexicon. What is experimental psycholinguistics, and the other, which will be what I will do now, is the formal analysis of data complemented by computational experimentation. Uh, in the first slide, oops, in the first slide we had look at the DINAR, Dictionnaire informatisé de l'arabe, so a dictionary for Arabic, which was a dictionary for the recognition and the analysis of word forms, where information was associated to lexical entries. So in word form in Arabic, you have two layers, a central layer or the core layer, which is the minimal word form in David Cohen's word. I give an example with a verb. You have the lexical stem, which is in the middle, that's the core. And then you have the prefix and then the suffix. And prefix and suffix are there for conjugation. They allow conjugation. In the line below, you see what readers of Arabic see. They don't, the short vowels are in small letters, and capital letters transcribe letter sounds that are written as a grapheme in the words. Then I move on to layer two, which is the maximal word form, which includes, of course, the core and You have one example with no prefix here because the example is a noun and there are only prefixes in some verbs. Then you have proclitics. Proclitics are conjunctions and prepositions composed of one word, like uniliteral, usually. Not usually, they are uniliteral. And then enclitics are uh, complement pronouns. There are 13 complement pronouns in Arabic, and the word is wabi sababiha, and by cause, indirect case of her, that is, and by her cause, and by the cause, her being, not being a person automatically. So we have a complex recognition process. We have three letters in the lexical core, and we have four letters in the rest of the word. Albeit adjoint elements belong to a limited list of letters, but they can also appear in the core of the word, which makes it more complicated to read. So on what basis can the recognition process operate? So we have um, two kinds of fields in the word. One field includes the core of the minimal word, which is lexical. Lexical entities pertain to non-finite inventories. It doesn't mean that they're infinite. It just means that they're always open to new words being added. Arabic strongly resists plurilexical entries. Why does Arabic resist plurilexical entries? You can at least partly answer after this presentation, if I have been clear enough. The other fields includes grammatical morphemes. That is, if I go back to here, proclitics and prefixes, suffixes and enclitics are grammatical morphemes, and only the center, that's the core, is lexical. So this I've prepared a few examples, but I'm going to go through them quickly. Prefixes are only in one of the conjugations of Arabic, and they are personal pronouns. Suffixes are conjugation markers in verbs, and also you can see that proclitics and at least proclitics are different when between verbs and nouns. They're not the same. For instance, you can have verbal conjunctions before a verb, and you can have a preposition before a noun. In noun, you have no noun prefixes, I have just mentioned, and there are suffixes. No prefixes. In the literature on Semitic languages, they call added consonants to the root that appear before the root prefixes. This is practical for them, for writers, but it's not practical for a consistent representation. So we follow a consistent representation in which all these consonants added before the root are included in the pattern of the word, which is the case, and therefore in the core. And then you have suffixes such as case-ending markers, feminine, singulative marker, and you have there's the e, which is a nominal adjectival relative marker, e, which is borrowed in English and French, where we say Kuwaiti to say someone from Kuwait, Emirati to say someone from the Emirates. That's just for the pleasure of recalling it. And then nominal suffixes are strictly included in the minimal word structure. They're always included in the minimal word structure, and they're always followed by case-ending markers. Because when you add a suffix to a noun, it may change the meaning of the noun, which is the case when you have collective singulative. Ward is ward in Arabic is collective, a set of roses. Warda, one rose. Naml, collective for a swarm of ants, and one ants would be namla, with the plural namlat, etc. Okay, so this means that when you have a word and you need to when you have a word and you need to um, make sure that the suffixes are adjointed to that word, you need a way of doing that, which we're going to see in a moment. So proclitics in nouns and verbs. Proclitics are uniconsonantal grammatical morphemes. In nouns, they're coordinates, prepositions, etc. I skipped the details. Then enclitics are complement pronouns. There are 13 of them in Arabic, and they're attached in writing to the verb they complement. This means that all the elements of the word I have presented in the first table are agglutinated in writing into one written word between two spaces. All these, what is right and left of the core, of the lexical core of the word, belong to closed list grammatical morphemes. They are grammatical morphemes, and a complete list of them can be put down in writing easily. And then now I move to in this case, so this is the analysis of the word. Now let me move to the analysis of the core. The core includes a root and a pattern. Okay, many cores, most all, not all of them, include a root and a pattern. Lexical cores are said to be analyzable in Semitic roots and patterns. This to this, I'll give two remarks. Not all the words have a root and pattern structure. All verbs, no verb is outside this system. Also, the verbals, that is, verbal forms derived from verbs, belong to the root and pattern structure, but a big number of nouns don't. When they cannot be included in the three consonant or four consonant structure of the roots, such as captain, captain, tornado, the R is missing, tornado, which is a tornado in Arabic, bitir, which is watermelon, pastèque, bitir has given pastèque in French after traveling around the Mediterranean. And then that's remark number one, is that a lot of words are not in the root and pattern system, a lot of nouns. And then the relation between roots and patterns is not compositional. It submits to a principle of lexical freezing due to the nomination process. That is, when do you put together one root and one pattern to make a word? It's when you have to name something which has not been named before, for the first time, that is, when you do that for the first time. You name something which did not appear before. For instance, you need a word for telephone. So in telephone, they use the word hatif, which belongs to a root referring to someone you can hear but can't see. a sound which is heard at a distance. So this has given telephone, and it works. It's used now. But then when you combine the two elements, A, that is, say, root, B, that is pattern, uh, what you get is an A, comma B result that cannot be reduced to the features of A, that is the future features of the root, or not to the features of the pattern. Let me take Hatif is telephone, Hatif is active participle, shouting at a distance. Okay, so shouting at a distance is one thing, and then you have this is doing some. Hatif is active, the agent, someone who does something. Shouting at a distance is the meaning of the root. I put them together, I get telephone, so there's something added which was not in the root and not in the pattern. So some people have thought for quite some time that you could have a mental lexicon for Arabic with combining a lexicon of roots and a grammatical lexicon of pattern. Patterns have a grammatical meaning. So you have a combined, you have around 450 patterns. That's the maximum you can get. And then roots, you could go to 7,000. This is a first view of the mental lexicon. So could that be the mental lexicon of Arabic? The answer is no. For instance, lexica are not preset. This was an interesting idea, going back to an idea Leibniz had thought of after looking at the writing of Chinese, an alphabet of all meanings. But then it's impossible because there are always new things appearing in the world. So, so today we have a telephone, but we have a mobile telephone, and mobile is now a new Arabic word. So epistemologically, it doesn't work. You can't combine roots and patterns. And then technically, you produce a lexica which is overpowerful. 7,000 roots in the Lisan al-Arab dictionary, without an S, around 450 patterns. Then you get 3,150,000 lexical entries, which is much more than can be supported by any language. By comparison, in our Dictionnaire informatisé de l'arabe dinar database, we had 129,000 entries. So how does it work? So the mental lexicon must be based on, first of all, extant entries. When we came to 129,000 entries in the dinar database, it was entries that really existed. So and then you have the speaker's intuitive idea to the grammatical meaning of patterns, and you have language specifiers. So language specifiers deal with the relation, they're associated to the noun or verb or adjective, and they deal with the relation with whatever is before or after in the word. So you have three types of language specifiers: the word form specifiers, the written word forms in this work, the syntactic context within sentences, and discourse or text context. Although I worked on 2 and 3, I will only speak about 1. Language specifiers refer also to Melchuk's definition of the linguistic sign, although Melchuk keeps saying that you must not read his previous definitions. In his last book, for instance, the linguistic science is composed of signifiant, the form, signifier, the meanings, and the syntactic. The syntactic is a concept which we have revised for the achievement of the dinar DB, and it includes word form specifiers. For instance, kataba, writing, and then the complement is obviously you can not write somebody, you write something. And then if you write someone, that's you inscribe someone. God inscribed you in the book of the just, etc. You have the same in English with I read a book and I read you. You can't read someone you in English, okay? In French, it's a little bit different. So we have language specifiers. The number is finite because the number of grammatical elements right and left of the core is in finite um, sets. And then um, there's a number, the core of the word form belongs to a non-finite number. Okay, so there's I should have written non-finite here. I'm sorry. The cores of the word belong to non-finite numbers, or to a finite number of categories, but a non-finite number of entries. A finite number of categories, which are noun, verb, adjective, and a few grammatical words. And then the language specifiers are a projection of a finite set of grammatical features on an infinite set of entries. So the mental lexicon needed is works like this. Okay. Now I have 1 minute and a half. So this is how it works. You have the core with its specifiers, and it relates to suffixes and enclitics, prefixes and proclitics. On the right side, I should have typed proclitics. So the lexical meaning includes an idea of the root, an idea of the pattern, and then you have the lexical meaning of the core. And the lexical meaning of the core, as in the example of telephone I gave, is something which cannot be just taken down from through a combination of the root and of the pattern. So the mental lexicon needed for word form recognition in Arabic excludes the idea of Arabic or Semitic languages lexica, to be brought down to a mere combination of root and patterns. It relates the core of the agglutinative word forms to the other elements. So the language specifiers, that is the contextual information, and the contextual information is finite. The number of features are finite. They are finite in the word form, as I have demonstrated, but I have also shown that they can be considered as finite with when you come to collocations and syntactic structures. And then there is more in the mental lexicon. That's the conclusive sentence. There's more in the mental lexicon than just letters or phonemes and words in various forms. You need context information embodied in what we have called language specifiers. So thank you for your patient Friday evening attention. Okay.
Questions?
Yes. Okay. For me, I have finished. Okay.
Any questions? So you said at some point that Arabic is not plurilexical, so you mean there are never any compound words?
There are, when you look at books, you find 2 or 3 examples of compound words. They're always the same. And there's no more than 4 or 5 compound words. And in fact, these compound words will not, cannot operate with suffixes, prefixes, proclitics. They're strictly limited. The language resists. There's a big difference with Hebrew. Modern Hebrew accepts. But then the language resisting the plurilexical or multilexical entries allows words to work in the frame which I have presented. There are examples of words, subsonic or something like that, but then they have prefixes which are one letter or two letter prefixes. But the number is very, very little in Arabic. So the mental lexicon can consider them as specific and put them aside. There are exceptions, in fact.
Okay, there are no more questions. Thank you very much, Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you. And I wish I was with you. The weekend in Venice would have been very nice, but well, I can't.
Next time.
Next time. Okay.